Post-mortem curiosity. Dr. Vectal adjusted the sterilizer field with 2 of his 6 fingers, narrowing the shimmer around the motionless form on the examination table. The subject lay still, pale and battered, encased in a fabric of unknown material. His skin was smooth, pinkish beige, with patches of singed hair on the cranium. Limbs long and strangely undermuscled. No exoskeletal reinforcement. No external toxin glands. Fragile. Fascinating. Is this truly it? Vectal asked, leaning closer. This is a human. His assistant, Yawned, nodded nervously. Recovered from debris, field, Kappa 7. Escape pod. Life signs were, he hesitated, tapping a crystalline screen, non-existent. Cortical decay consistent with biological death. We were certain. Vectal narrowed his amber eyes. And yet the nervous system, look, these axonal channels are degraded, yes, but structurally intact. And the muscular tension suggests conservation, not rigor. Yawned blinked. Doctor, are you suggesting he is dead? Yes, but perhaps recently, or differently. They'd heard the stories. Everyone in the Galactic Concord had. The Terrans, primitive, chaotic, impossible, had exploded onto the interstellar scene like an accidental fire in a plasma refinery. They came from a high-gravity death world, lived in metal hives, and solved disputes with projectile weapons and loud music. Rumors claimed they were near feral. Some said they had no concept of fear. Others said they had too much and ignored it anyway. None of that mattered now. Now, Vectal had a specimen. A human. His to study, to dissect, to finally understand. Begin internal scans, Vectal ordered. Let's see what this creature kept under its strangely thin dermis. Yawned activated the array. Beams of scanning light flickered across the body. The data streamed in, strange and contradictory. The heart had stopped, yet its structure showed no signs of trauma. The lungs were collapsed, but their tissue was rich with oxygen. Synaptic traces flickered at the base of the brainstem. We should delay dissection, Yawned whispered. This pattern, it's unlike any other species. I recommend full stasis containment. Vectal huffed. For what? He is dead. He reached for the cranial separator. The blade hissed to life with a whirring glow. The human moved. Barely at first. A twitch. A small jerk of the fingers. Then, as Vectal froze mid-motion, the corpse's chest rose, slow and shallow. The eyes fluttered open, pupils dilating. Then, yawn on. The human stretched, bones cracking as he arched his back and rubbed his face. His voice came out groggy and dry. Damn, that nap sucked. Anyone got coffee? For exactly 4.6 seconds, no one moved. Then Yawned screamed. Chaos erupted in the medbay. 2 assistants ran for the door. The sterilizer field failed with a pop of ozone. Instruments clattered to the floor as tables were overturned. Vectal stepped back in shock, eyes wide as the human sat upright and looked around. Whoa, hey, the human said, raising his hands. Let's all just take a breath, yeah? I didn't mean to crash your party. Security. Vectal barked into the intercom. Specimen has reanimated. Possibly hostile. Deploy containment units immediately. The human blinked. Reanimated? Dude, I was in stasis. You thought I was dead. Vectal raised a shaking hand, pointing the cranial separator at him. What are you? The doctor whispered. The human grinned. Name's Jason. Corporal Jason Reddick. Earth Defense Corps. And I really need to pee. A squad of armored guards burst into the room just as Jason hopped off the table, hands raised in peace. Okay, he said quickly. Look, I don't want trouble. I was in a pod. The pod blew. The stasis kicked in. You guys picked me up. I get it. Honest mistake. The guards hesitated. No one had trained for this. Nothing in the galactic protocols covered corpse sits up and asks for caffeine. Dr. Vectal slowly lowered the tool. His mind raced, 1,000 questions forming. This creature had come back from death. Not revived, simply not dead in the first place, in a way that defied every biological principle he knew. He swallowed. Corporal Reddick, he said cautiously. You are not what we expected. Jason scratched his head. Yeah, I get that a lot. Autopsy interrupted. Jason Reddick had been trained for a lot of things. Shipboard fires. Vacuum exposure. Negotiating with hostile species over disputed mining rights. But waking up mid-autopsy, surrounded by bug-eyed aliens with scalpels? That one hadn't come up in basic. He sat on the edge of the table, dangling his legs while half a dozen armed lizard bugs aimed various glowing weapons at his head. "Okay," he said slowly, glancing around the sleek, metallic med bay. "This is awkward for all of us." The doctor, if Jason had to guess, was tall and gangly, with pale blue skin and 4 luminous eyes. He wore a thin gown and still held something that looked suspiciously like a bone saw. His hands trembled. "I think," Jason said, trying to sound disarming, "you thought I was dead?" The alien replied in a warbling series of clicks and tones. Jason sighed and rubbed his temples. Of course. No translator. He scanned the room. Most of the equipment was unrecognizable. Crystal panels, floating diagnostic fields, and surgical arms that looked more suited for disassembling engines than patching up people. But tucked in the corner was something promising. A universal translator interface. Old, maybe, but familiar enough. Jason hopped down, ignoring the weapons, now tracking his every move. "Relax. Just grabbing this." A few guards took a step forward. The doctor raised a hand, hesitating. Jason knelt and tapped through the UI. Thankfully, the interface defaulted to Galactic Trade Common. With a few adjustments and a manual audio sync, he patched in English. The machine hummed. Contact protocol established. Language matrix aligning. Jason grinned. "There we go. Now let's talk." The guards looked at one another, clearly unsure if they should shoot or keep listening. Jason looked directly at the doctor. "Okay, first off, I'm not a zombie, a clone, or some kind of undead super soldier. I was in cryostasis, deep metabolic suppression. It's standard issue for emergency evac. Slows everything to a crawl. You probably scam me mid-cycle." The translator clicked and warbled. The doctor cocked his head. Jason continued. "I'm human. Earth Defense Corps. Not hostile unless poked, prodded, or cut open, which, no offense, you guys were definitely about to do." The translator relayed his words. The doctor, Vectal, if Jason heard the muttered exchanges right, tilted his head and responded through the machine. "You were not dead." Jason held up a hand and made a SOSO motion. "Technically? Medically? Yeah, I was close. But cryo slows cell death. You probably picked me up before I passed the no-return threshold. You had no heartbeat." Jason shrugged. "Temporary inconvenience." The guards still hadn't lowered their weapons, but their eyes flicked toward Vectal, who looked increasingly torn between scientific curiosity and sheer panic. "Look," Jason said, "I'm not here to fight. I'm just trying to get back to my people. And maybe a sandwich. Or a burrito. You guys got burritos on this ship." No reaction. "Figures." Jason gestured at the translator. "Can you tell me where I am? What ship is this?" Vectal hesitated. "Xaltheen dreadnought virus shell. You are in custody." Jason gave a wry chuckle. "Right. I figured. Mind if I ask why I'm under autopsy instead of, medical treatment?" The translator relayed the question. Vectal's response was dry. "You were presumed dead. We have never encountered a live human. We wish to understand your structure." Jason nodded. "Yeah, well, I don't blame you. We probably would have done the same. Maybe with less poking." He looked around again, this time more carefully. The med bay was pristine, but not heartless. There were diagnostic charts on the wall. Alien organs, glowing images of nervous systems. All carefully labeled, cleanly arranged. This was a place of study, not torture. Jason softened his tone. "You're scientists. I respect that. So maybe let's start over." He extended a hand. Vectal stared at it for a moment, confused, then tentatively placed 2 fingers in Jason's palm. "Dr. Vectal," the alien said. "Jason Reddick," Jason replied. "Still very much alive." They shook awkwardly. Vectal looked down at the table. The instruments he had prepped were still there. Scalpels, scanners, tissue extractors. His own notes floated on a screen beside them, labeling Jason as Subject 1, deceased. Unknown species durability. He deleted the deceased tag. "I would like to study you," he said, voice hesitant. Jason smirked. as long as it's after breakfast. Containment protocols. Captain Ralcor stared at the security footage in stony silence. On the screen, supposedly dead humans strolled casually around medical deck 4, poking at equipment, sipping from a reclaimed water tube, and chatting with Dr. Vectal like they were old friends. "This is a disaster," Ralcor muttered. His adjutant, Kelnari, stood beside him, flicking her eyes over the datapad. The specimen exhibits full mobility, coherent speech, and no apparent hostility. He's even repaired part of the translator array. He was on autopsy table, Ralcor growled. "No pulse, no respiration. That is not full mobility, Kelnari. That's necromancy." Kelnari's crest twitched. "Or advanced stasis. Some form of human hibernation, perhaps." Ralcor paced across the bridge, his tail flicking in agitation. "The Galactic Concord warned us. Humanity was volatile, unpredictable, dangerous. They also said humans died easily." Ralcor gestured sharply to the display. "Does that look dead to you?" On the feed, the human, Jason, balanced a scalpel on his nose while Vectal lectured him about neural resonance. The guard standing nearby looked baffled and deeply uncomfortable. Ralcor sighed. "Fine. We can't airlock him now. He's sentient, awake, and under observation. But if this, Jason so much as twitches wrong, I want full containment ready." Kelnari nodded and moved to relay the order. Jason sat on the floor of the med bay, back against the wall, chewing something that tasted like nutrient-flavored cardboard. Still, it beat dying. "So let me get this straight," he said between bites. "You guys thought I was a corpse and decided to cut me open?" Vectal, seated beside him with a scanner on his lap, shifted uncomfortably. "You showed all signs of biological death." Jason grinned. "You should have checked for snoring." The door slid open with a hiss. A delegation entered, Captain Ralcor in the center, flanked by guards and a diplomatic AI drone hovering above his shoulder. Jason stood and gave a lazy salute. "You the big guy in charge?" Ralcor regarded him with narrowed eyes. "I am Captain Ralcor of the dreadnought virus shell. You are an unknown, unregistered combatant captured in restricted space. Your survival is under investigation." Jason scratched his neck. "Fair. But let's just clear one thing up. I'm not here to fight. I was fleeing a battle, got caught in the crossfire. Emergency pod kicked in. Rest is history." The AI translated flawlessly, though Jason suspected it softened the sarcasm. Ralcor's voice was measured. "You were clinically dead. Only mostly dead," Jason said, grinning. "Turns out humans are hard to kill." "Explain." Jason crossed his arms. "We evolve on a planet that tries to kill us daily. Acidic rain, radiation, animals with venomous spines, and zero chill. We adapt. Fast. Stasis pods like mine can slow metabolism to a crawl for days. Maybe weeks, if you're lucky. You probably scanned me during my lowest cycle." Kelnari stepped forward, tapping her pad. "Even so, your biology is inefficient. Fragile. You lack natural armor. Your skeletal density is minimal." "Yup," Jason said. "And yet here I am. Upright. Talking. Not dissected." Ralcor's voice darkened. "So you claim your species survives by sheer recklessness?" Jason laughed. "Pretty much." Vectal interjected. "Captain, I have conducted preliminary scans. His internal injuries are healing at an accelerated rate. His adrenal system is self-regulating. He also claims his race recreationally jumps from great heights with fabric wings." Ralcor stared. "For survival training?" Jason winked. "For fun." The silence that followed was deep and uncomfortable. Kelnari broke it. "You're telling us your species simulates death for entertainment?" "Among other things," Jason replied. "We eat spicy food that could kill small animals. Some of us wrestle apex predators. My uncle lost 3 fingers to a raccoon and still barbecues without gloves." Vectal nodded slowly. "It is consistent with the data." Ralcor stepped forward, eyes hard. "And what happens if we don't return you to your people?" Jason didn't smile this time. "They'll come looking." That hung in the air. Not a threat, just a truth. A quiet, uncomfortable one. Ralcor exhaled and gestured to the guards. Place him under observation. No restraints. Full sensor coverage. Prepare diplomatic channels with the Terran Alliance. Kelnari's eyes widened. Captain, are you sure? Better they hear it from us, Ralcor said. That we captured a human, and he came back from the dead. Jason gave him a thumbs up. Don't worry. I make a great first impression. Humans are a warning. The conference chamber aboard the virus shell had been hastily reconfigured. Translation nodes pulsed along the walls. Security drones hovered at full alert. Half a dozen Xaltheen officers lined the perimeter, stiff and silent. At the center sat Jason Reddick, legs crossed, expression calm, fingers drumming on the metal table. Across from him, Captain Ralcor and Dr. Vectal waited as the main holographic display flickered to life. A stern human face materialized, Commander Ashendari of the Terran Diplomatic Corps. She looked tired, wary, and entirely unsurprised to see Jason alive. Corporal Reddick, she said flatly. Status. Jason offered a lazy salute. Slightly concussed, mildly humiliated, otherwise intact. Ma'am, I read the report. You were declared Kia. Yeah, I noticed, Jason said, smirking. Lucky for me. Our Xaltheen friends here didn't cut too deep. Ralcor shifted uncomfortably. Our actions were premature. We assumed. You assumed wrong, Dari snapped. But we'll let it pass. This time, Jason raised a hand. To be fair, they didn't know what they were dealing with. She looked at him. No one ever does. Dr. Vectal cleared his throat. Commander Ndari, your species is unlike any we have encountered. This incident was not an act of hostility. It was curiosity, scientific if misguided. I believe you, Ndari said. We've been studied, underestimated, and feared since the moment we stepped onto the galactic stage. That's understandable. What's less acceptable is opening one of our soldiers like a laboratory frog. Vectal stiffened. He was clinically dead. Jason interjected gently. It's not just about me. This, he gestured around, this whole situation, it's what always happens when we show up. Everyone assumes we're fragile, that we die easy. Ralcor frowned. Do you not? Jason leaned forward. We die all the time. We just don't stay that way. The room fell silent. He continued, voice quieter now. You've seen it. Our systems fail, but we fight anyway. We lose limbs, and we come back stronger. You know why our ships don't have escape pods on the bridge? Because we don't believe in surrendering the command deck. Ever. Ralcor was silent for a moment, then asked, why? Jason smiled sadly. Because Earth is hard. Our planet shaped us with teeth. You either learn to bleed and stand up again, or you don't make it. You think I'm unusual? I'm not. I'm just a normal human who got unlucky, stayed alive out of spite, and woke up mid-autopsy. Dr. Vectal folded his hands together. We did not intend to offend. I'm not offended, Jason said. But let me be real with you, document. What you experienced, the way I came back, the way we survive things you think we can't. That's not a quirk. It's a warning. Ralcor's eyes narrowed. A warning. Jason looked directly at him. You haven't seen what we become when we're truly desperate. You think this, he tapped his chest, is strange? Wait until you meet the ones who survive actual death. Soldiers brought back with machines. Pilots who navigate by neural scars. Colonists who regrow bones because the medkits ran out a week ago. Darius' voice returned, calm but cold. Humanity is not a conquest. We're a lesson in resilience. And sometimes the galaxy doesn't like what it learns. Ralcor sat back slowly. He looked at Jason again, no longer as a curiosity or a specimen, but as something else. Something that wouldn't break the way it should. Something that might not break at all. After a long pause, he said, what do you want from us? Jason shrugged. Right now, a ride home, a steak dinner, and maybe a souvenir. Later, maybe mutual respect. We can manage the first two, Ralcor muttered. Jason grinned. Deal. Later, as the Xaltheen crew watched Jason board a diplomatic shuttle, a murmur passed through the ranks. Not fear exactly, though some of them still checked over their shoulders, but something quieter, a kind of reverence. The way you look at a fire after realizing it's alive. In the med bay, Vectal updated his files. Species, human. Status, sentient. Durable. Unpredictable. Recommendation, do not autopsy prematurely. Addendum, if it yawns, run.